Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome to the Just Jim radio show. Why Just Jim? Well, I have spent a great deal of time in my life looking at different ways to deal with life and what goes on in it, how to help people. I myself have had, over 35 years of training and experience with helping people find their purpose, their passion, their inspiration. I have studied everything from experiential processing to spiritual development. I have been a coach, a counselor, a healer, just about a little bit of everything. Currently, the pastor at Sarasota Center of Light, Reverend Jim. As I share my inspiration, encouragement, and information to help people, I like it to be a part of how we live our life every day. Practical, spiritual, inspirational. And so it's just Jim. And here we are doing that through varying formats, through discussions and conversations, and through interviews and questions and answers, these kinds of approaches. So today we're going to be talking about some things that can assist us with what's going on right now and what's going on around us. We are in that process of this pandemic, having had it come and have it be here, and in the process of the evolving out of it. A little clearing of the throat there this morning, so I won't be sharing my frog with you the entire time we're talking. This morning we're going to be talking about the power of being. Sounds like an interesting statement, doesn't it? There's power involved, there's being involved, but for what? For who? Well, if we're going to talk about being anything and being it powerfully, at this point in time in our lives, when I say our lives, not just yours, mine, but humanity's, the world. I mean, we aren't just looking at ourselves anymore. We're looking at each other. We're looking at how whatever we're being, how we're being with one another, what that looks like, how that shows up, will make a difference in how not only each of us live, but all of us live. The boundaries have kind of fallen away, and we've been given a different level of responsibility at this point in time to find our truth and be able to experience it and share it a little differently. So as we're looking around us, we're doing a lot. I don't know about you, but I'm doing a lot of evaluating, right? So I'm looking at what's going on. You know, I have a life where I'm trying to take care of my duties and roles and responsibilities. I'm shifting all of my presentations from in person to online to Facebook Live to Zoom to podcasts to sharing as much as I possibly can in a completely different way than I have before. So my world hasn't turned upside down. It's just turned inside out, which is a good way of looking at what we're talking about here with being. Being isn't about what's going on around us. It's what's going on within us. And what is going on around us, though, wow, it can certainly bring home a different view of the world as we know it, our life as we know it. And so these events that are happening around us are personal, and they are an opportunity for us to really have a chance to make a difference. And when things are close to home, you know, we can take the time to look at and work with and work on and change the way we think or feel more easily. It's almost like we've got our own little world we're dealing in, whether it's our human being, our spiritual being, our just Jim or just you being. So I'm sure for each of you, it's been completely different. That's the thing to have to really look at. There's no way of saying be this or be that. You have to be you. What is that? And that's what I'm really talking about today is how can we take advantage of being not quite forced into, but based on what's going on, be opened up into the opportunity to look not only at what's going on around us and how we're going to function in our lives, But how are we going to be? How are we going to be? Some call it a health crisis, a pandemic. I've been calling it, when I'm shopping in Walmart, a panic-demic. People running around doing all kinds of different things in different ways. And as we're moving beyond the initial thrust of it coming in and then kind of trying to work through how we're going to deal with it, and now into that place of evolving out of it at different levels for different people in different places, for sure. We're beginning to bring what we've discovered about ourselves, or that we're discovering about our being, who we are, into our lives, first to our smaller lives and then to the world as we know it, or as we're beginning to become it. And as we look at something bigger than us, reaching outside of our own personal lives, it's harder to get our head wrapped around it. It's hard to get our arms practically wrapped around it. I mean, how am I going to be, and how is that going to affect my family? Well, that's more obvious. My community, or my workplace, or my city even. And then when we start reaching out into the state, reaching out into the country, other countries, the world, it's harder for us to recognize that even though we aren't living in other countries or part of other cultures, we are, because who we are as a collective determines how the world will be. So we're talking about the power of us individually being, and as in a group kind of an environment or dynamic, closer to home, and then on a collective, world, humanity point of view. And it's interesting that as we're moving through this time, what's going on really has no religious boundary, no cultural boundary, no race, gender, age. It's a global event, and we have this opportunity to, as we have always, truly, to be. So what's going on with you right now? What are you finding in this place where you've had to sort of retreat? Some of us are out more active because of our jobs. Some are not at all. But what have you begun to look at what has become important to you now? What really matters? This is our opportunity to self-evaluate, to look at the way we're functioning in our lives, in our world, and what is our purpose? Why are we here? How do we want this to be as we step back out? I know for me, it's definitely a powerful time of a transition for me. I mean, I'm having to look at myself completely different. My wife works in the hospital, my son at Target, and so we've got these different aspects of people experiencing the way that they're functioning. My wife on the front line, and my son really on the front line in a different manner. And here I am, as just Jim, trying to share what I can to help make a difference to those of us to all of us who are just trying to figure out what's really going on and what we really want to express. Because what we express, what we bring from our being, whether it's our human practical being or our inspirational spiritual being or just being, just us, will be the strokes on the canvas or the notes of the song or the movement in the dance that we get to experience. And together, how we all experience it. So as you're paying attention to whether or not you should have gloves on or a mask on or of course, obviously keeping the distance so as to bring balance to this situation so that we're paying attention to our well-being, to our health, to this situation that requires us being responsible. And gosh, you've heard me, if you've listened to me before, say this a bunch of times. Responsibility is the ability to respond. And that's where we are. We're in this place right now where we have to pay attention to everything we're doing and how we're doing it and the way we're doing it. And that is a habit I would love to see all of us continue to do, because if you think about the word being conscious, sometimes that takes you to a place of, spiritual and kind of inner work. And yet conscious is just paying attention. Conscious is being here right now, with what you are and what you are being, no matter what it is. And the more we're able to pay attention to what's happening in the moment, the more we can pay attention to our thoughts, to our feelings, to our decisions, to our actions, these pieces of the puzzle that create our life and the world as we know it. And they aren't the basis of who we really are, who our being is. These are sort of results, the thoughts that come and go, the feelings that come and go, the actions that we take, and then our history. Although they are our experience in the world, our expression comes from a different place. It comes from within. There's no way I could possibly sit here and say, I understand what you're going through. This whole idea of walking in somebody else's shoes or moccasins for a mile or not, there's no way. This has done an interesting thing. It's caused us to go to a place of solitude, almost isolation for many, turning within, almost feeling selfish about what we look at and taking care of ourselves and those we care about in our lives. And yet it's developing an opportunity for us to be conscious, to be aware, to be present, to be paying attention to who we are, who we're being, how we're relating to the world around us, how we will relate to it. These are habits and patterns that have been missing in society, in our culture, in our world. We've been so obsessed with bringing things to a contained, self-contained kind of an approach that we've missed sometimes the benefit and the beauty and the wonder of interacting and collaborating and coming together. I know I'm enjoying my interactions with those who might participate with me through my online presentations or through my Zoom interactions. These are great chances to continue that dynamic that we're missing of not being able to come together or be around each other as much. But each of us going through our own thing. Some of you may be in this very moment still in fear or anxious or confused or still looking for answers. It's depending on how the environment is happening around you, what's happening in your own world, and as we're evolving from and out of this situation, how we're going to respond or be responsible. And for those who may be dealing with health issues or symptoms, certainly sending blessings, prayers, energy for you to be well and healthy. And yet all of us are walking through this together, and that's a really important point to take home from this conversation. Even in our solitude and in our isolation, what are we going to bring to these questions, these doubts, these fears, these uncertainty? What are we going to bring to how we're going to be? And we can find that by taking the time to be conscious, to look within and begin to evaluate not only how we have been, it has served us to whatever degree it has up till now, but for many it's taking a closer look at what we can become. You see, being is what we are right now. Becoming is what we're reflecting out from us as we're making our way. And so even in the time frame of this event and what's going on, it's a really good way to look at it, because